Does this sound familiar? You're going about your evening unbothered when your spouse walks in, wanting to talk about their feelings again. Cue the eye roll. Here we go. Instead of a peaceful evening, you are now getting nagged about how you're not listening enough or you don't care about their feelings, while you're sitting there wishing they would just go away because if you're honest, you've never been good about handling people's feelings and you just don't know what to do or say about it. If this is you, I'm here to help. I'm Jennell Elias, clinically trained in marriage and family therapy, and today I'm going to give you a crash course on feelings and how you can get better about them. Look at it purely from an objective lens. What are feelings? On a scientific and even biological level, they're just data. It's the body's way of telling us that something's not right. It's a sense of dread or fear if we're in a dangerous situation, or the promise of a reward, like the grumbling of our bellies if we're hungry and we smell something tasty in the air. It's just one of the gauges on our brain's dashboard, among others, helping us stay safe and healthy. This includes situations less rooted in biology and more about our brain's perception of safety. I'm talking about more abstract feelings like heartbreak if someone leaves us or getting upset if someone disrespects us. It's still a temperature check into our overall status, like we're doing really good right now, feeling happy, or nope, this bothered me, we are not okay right now. Research on human emotions has evolved a lot over the years, but I'll talk about a couple of main points that are helpful to know in the context of navigating our relationships. The first is that emotions are universal. We all experience sadness, happiness, fear, etc. Some cultures place more focus on certain emotions than others, but the takeaway here is that feelings are not made up. They're not all in our heads. They are biological, chemical, and innate to the global human experience. We can measure them physiologically, from recording someone's heart rate or sweat glands to doing more in-depth brain studies. We know that feelings are real things that we all experience to some degree. The second thing I want to point out about research is that emotions are often layered and complex experiences. What I mean by that is that we often have emotions appear on the surface level, like getting angry or feeling worried. Then digging into them a little bit deeper, uncover deeper emotions like feeling hurt or afraid. Same with positive emotions. In a few months, I'm going to watch my firstborn walk across a stage for the big high school graduation. I already know I'm going to be feeling proud, a little sad that my baby's all grown up and will now be moving forward with his life, and probably a bit nostalgic for the sweeter, more innocent days of yesteryear. That's all a lot of layers packed into one experience. Another example is seeing a beloved pet run off into the street and almost get hit by a car. We might be feeling furious initially that they escaped the house and ended up putting themselves in harm's way, but beneath all of that initial reaction, digging deeper, lies the fear that something could have happened to them and the pain of potentially losing them forever. Something I've highlighted in previous episodes is that surface level emotions, the ones you can feel and name without doing a bunch of self-reflection, tend to be the safer ones, personally, socially, and culturally, because it's not as risky to express them. Anger is one of the most common emotions felt at a surface level because it's more acceptable to get mad than it is to cry or admit that we feel something more vulnerable deep down. Other examples of surface level emotions versus deeper ones can include saying that we're happy, but underneath that feel safe or loved. Expressing that we're upset, but deep down we might be feeling loneliness, embarrassment, grief. Being able to dig deeper and become more aware of those complex emotions takes skill. It's not something everyone is necessarily born with or good at from day one. There's lots of reasons why we might not be good with feelings, but some of them include we might have never been taught. Not that it was anyone's fault. I mean, how can our parents teach us a skill they've never had? Alternatively, we might have had negative experiences where expressing emotion in the past or letting them show backfired on us, and we learned not to do that again. Exposing our feelings to others involves risking vulnerability. That's a scary thing. We might not be good about letting anyone in or dealing with emotions because we've developed a protective wall around ourselves to keep us from ever feeling vulnerable or getting hurt like that, not realizing that we're accidentally shutting ourselves into a prison of our own design in the name of keeping ourselves safe. Last one I'll mention, just because it's worth putting out there. Someone might be watching this who genuinely has a condition that gets in the way of being able to recognize the feelings of others or within ourselves. Not everyone, but it's a very real thing for some. So how do we get better about emotions? It's not always easy, but it is possible to get better about it. It's a skill like any other that we can learn and practice, improving over time. Depending on the situation, we might have to retrain our brains or even reparent ourselves to break away from unhelpful beliefs, like the idea that feelings might be weakness. It might involve some journaling, spending some time in self-reflection, or even working through it with a trusted third party like a therapist, a coach, or faith leader. It might sound a bit dumb, but actually looking up feeling words or feeling charts can be really useful in helping us identify, how do I really feel about this right now? What am I actually feeling in this moment? I use them when working with couples all the time and even reference them for myself from time to time. Here's why it matters. Emotions, whether we pay attention to them or not, influence our thoughts, our actions, and our decision making. When I work with people who openly express difficulty empathizing with others or dealing with feelings, they often pride themselves on the idea that they keep their feelings under control. But when we start exploring that a little more, they start to realize they just haven't been as aware of the times when emotions are the ones controlling them, not the other way around. You might even be thinking right now, not me. I never let feelings affect me. So I'll ask you, think back to some of the times when someone has made you really mad. Just some disrespectful idiot out there or a family member saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Did you immediately shrug it off and say, "That's all right, you have a good day," and really mean it? Someone with lower awareness of their own emotions is more likely to get mad, fly off the handle, cause a big scene, or just shut down. Nobody talk to me, just stay out of my way while I calm down. On that note, if you do get upset or someone really pushes your buttons, how long does it take you to calm back down and come to a genuinely peaceful state? Worse yet, someone that finds themselves perpetually in a bad mood, frustrated, irritated, or angry, even if they can't pinpoint to any one specific reason that explains it all. Look, even people that society has labeled as psychopaths, which is not the correct clinical term, by the way, experience some level of emotions, though admittedly more muted and generally centered around their own goals or desires instead of empathy for others. So yes, even you experience emotions and are affected by them, whether you're aware of it or not. But you know who else feels emotions and is affected by them? Your loved ones. And trust me when I say they need you to understand this point. Why? Why do people need their feelings understood and acknowledged? Because when you strip down any relationship connection, any human interaction down at its core, the atoms of a relationship, if you will, every genuine human connection is founded on the feeling of being seen, understood, and accepted for who we are. Don't believe me? Think about any time you've interacted with a stranger where you walked away thinking to yourself, man, what a cool person. I'm so glad I got to talk to them unexpectedly for a moment. Say the person next to you on a plane where even if maybe you were hoping to avoid talking to anyone, you ended up chatting for half the flight because the conversation was so interesting. Or actually, I remember being on a 3-day cruise with my extended family, and by pure happenstance ended up somehow on the upper decks looking out into the pitch black ocean at this point at night, captivated by this conversation with a random stranger that was so refreshingly honest that we stayed up talking until the wee hours of the night. Just out there. We told each other things we'd never actually tell someone we knew. And at the end of it, we just both wished each other well, did not trade names, contact information, or anything. Just left that interaction as it was. To this day, I remember with gratitude the chance I got to connect with another human on such an honest level. Do you have your own example of a cool conversation you've ever had with a stranger? Chances are you two hit it off because you either had something in common that you were both able to discuss at length, or you were genuinely interested in what that person had to say, even if they might have had polar opposite views from you, or maybe. And they showed they were genuinely just as interested in the conversation with you right back. What these examples all have in common is that it meant we either felt seen or understood each other on some level, or maybe even felt accepted for a small, temporary moment. You certainly didn't feel judged or looked down upon, or I'm sure that conversation would have shut down right away. Even platonic friendships start out as emotional connections where we thought, man, I really like this person, and they seem to like me too. In order for any of us to feel connected to anyone else, we need to feel some levels of being seen, understood, and accepted. All the more so for people who we claim to care about or even love. Without that feeling, or maybe the confirmation that the person that we care about, who supposedly cares about us, really understands and accepts us without judgment, we just can't have closeness. We tolerate that person at best, and we definitely keep them at an arm's length. Put a magnifying glass to any of these instances where adult children are now deciding to go no contact with their aging parents, and you'll find at the heart of it a child who has come to the heartbreaking conclusion that this parent is not good for them, and usually makes little to no effort to really understand or accept the child without judgment and without an ulterior agenda. Just purely setting myself aside to put your feelings and your needs first. Regardless of whether the adult child has misinterpreted certain situations or if they are spot on, the reality is that what matters here, the single most important factor that leads to the breaking of these relationships, is that this is how they feel. Not the facts of what really happened, not what was actually said or done, how they feel. And they're not the only ones. It's one example, but it's the same with marriages or long-term committed relationships. If our partners don't get the message, either through misunderstanding or because we just aren't going out of our way to make sure they know that we genuinely, without ulterior motive or judgment, see them for who they are, understand their hearts, their passions, their dreams, and accept and cherish them for it, the relationship will take a hit. Enough of those hits, and you have a couple whose passion and intimacy died long ago, or who are flat out just over each other. The only way to prevent that from happening, or to try and make amends if it's already happening, is to start getting better about recognizing and handling emotions, both our own and the emotions of those around us. It requires self-awareness to recognize when we are feeling a certain type of way in the moment, and how that's influencing our reactions or our decision-making in order to know how to best manage things. And it requires learning to recognize how others are feeling and what to do about it. Both of those things, by the way, when combined, that's all that emotional intelligence is really about. While emotional intelligence is a skill like any other that one can learn about and practice and get better at, it has to start with simply accepting that feelings are not good or bad things to be ignored or looked down upon, that they are just data that need to be accepted as is, and that they are important for our survival as well as for the health of our relationships. Then you can get into the details of how to be better at emotional intelligence if desired, which never hurts, and there are excellent books I could recommend on the subject if anyone reaches out for more info. I hope this helps you start looking at feelings and emotions a little differently, and maybe even spurs in you the desire to learn more about how to handle them better in your own daily life. As always, the link to submit questions is included at the bottom of each episode's description, and remember to subscribe so you get the notifications of when I go live to answer them. Talk to you again soon.